Hello and welcome. Today marks week 4 of the Master Challenges, which means Variety Challenge is officially out and we're gonna go over on how to do it. With this challenge, you are not allowed to leave your solo room using the same pattern for every phase. Yes, there are 2 different patterns that you can do. Pattern number 1 is probably the one you've been doing already. It is when you're collecting the 2 shapes inside your solo room, and when you pick them both up, they should be the opposite of what your statue is holding, and that allows you to leave the room. And remember, the same pattern that the person picks up to leave the room is the same pattern that the outside statue should be holding as well. Now, the second pattern is when you're collecting 2 of the same shapes to make it one big one. So for example, 2 squares make a cube, 2 triangles make a pyramid, and 2 circles make a sphere. And with this pattern, you would pick up 2 squares to make a cube, collect both of them, and you'll be able to leave the room through the glass door. And the same rule applies to the outside people. They are going to have to create a matching 3D shape inside the statue's hand that matches the people inside their solo room when they're trying to leave. Honestly, who would have known that you can leave with a cube, a sphere, or a pyramid? Because I had no idea. Hopefully the differences between these 2 patterns made sense. Now I'm actually going to go over on how your rundown is supposed to look like. There are 3 different phases inside this encounter. Phase number 1 is probably the same way that you have been doing. 3 people are going to get teleported inside their solo room. The first thing you're going to do is look for your statue and see what shape it's holding. That is going to be the shape that you want to collect. Any other shape you have inside your room, you want to bring it to the other matching statue. Meaning that if you have a square and you're trying to get rid of it, send it to the statue that's holding a square. Because right now, you're just trying to collect your 2 shapes and everybody else is doing the exact same thing. Now, once you have your 2 shapes, you are then going to split those 2 shapes apart and give one to each of your teammates. Once everybody has done their switcheroos, you should have 2 shapes on a wall that have nothing to do with the shape of your statue. For example, if your statue is holding a triangle, you should have the opposite of triangle on a wall, which would be a square and a circle. And if you do, you're then going to pick up both of those shapes and leave through the glass door. And that is pattern number 1 that you will use for phase 1. If you are part of the team that is dissecting, you are basically going to create the same shape on each of the statues that the person in the solo room is leaving with. One person from inside the room is going to call out each of the shapes that the statues are holding, from left, middle to right. And if, for example, the left statue is holding a square, that means the people on the outside only get to see the 3D shape, and they want to make sure that this shape has nothing to do with a square. And you are going to continue that pattern until you have the correct shapes on each of the statues. This is going to open the doorway with the glass so that the people in the inside room can exit. Now for phase number 2, you don't want to use the same pattern that we just did when you're leaving through the glass door. Instead, all 3 solo players are going to create a cube, a pyramid, and a sphere in order to exit the room. And this is going to involve an extra step, but bear with me, it's actually super simple. So when you get teleported, one person usually does a call out to the outside people on what the order of the shapes are, from left to right. So because everybody has to end up with a 3D shape that ends up being a cube, a sphere, and a pyramid, the same thing has to be outside in the dissecting room. So because of that, we have a set rotation that my group and I made in order to keep it organized. So if the first call out is circle, triangle, square, in that order from left to right, we're going to make a new pattern to keep it organized between the solo players and the outside people, and that is to rotate each shape 1 to the right, which means that circle is now in the middle, triangle is now to the right, and square is now on the left statue. The reason why we're doing this is because you cannot exit your room if your statue is holding a circle and you're collecting a sphere. It doesn't allow you to leave, so you either have to hold a pyramid or a cube. However, the people in the outside room that are dissecting have to match your exact shape. So in order to keep it organized, all the shapes are getting moved one statue to the right. Now I'm going to use this footage as an example. My statue is to the right side and is holding a square. That means right now I'm collecting squares and sending any other shape away to the matching statue. Yes, this is just like normal. Then, once I have my two shapes and all my teammates do as well, that is when we're gonna split our shapes. That means I'm going to send one square to circle and one square to triangle. Here is where we're adding the extra step. Remember how we did the call out of left, middle, and right statue? And remember how we rotated each shape to one statue over? This is where that applies. So since my statue was holding a square, I have to leave with two triangles in my hand because triangle originally was on the middle statue and we moved it over to the right one time, which means I have to hold a pyramid in order to exit. But in order to leave the room, I need two triangles, so we're going to switch our shapes around one more time, and that means my wall is going to have one triangle and a different shape. Obviously, I'm going to keep that triangle and I want to send the other shape away to the person that needs it. And somebody else is going to send me my secondary triangle. I am then going to pick both of them up and I will then be able to leave the room. So the main difference for the solo people inside is that extra added step that you need to do to rotate your shape one more time so you have your double shapes. Now we're going to talk about the people that are doing the dissecting, which in my opinion is probably the harder part. In order to open the glass door so the solo people can exit their room, you have to match the statues with their shapes. I am going to use the exact same example. If I'm trying to leave my solo room with my double triangle, which makes a pyramid, the people on the outside need to make sure that my statue is holding a pyramid. I know that we usually avoid having a statue holding these type of shapes, but not this time because it's a must. So it does not matter what these statues are holding, you have to switch around all of these shapes to make sure they're matching to the people inside. So that means my statue has to be holding a pyramid, middle statue has to be holding a sphere, and the left statue has to be holding a cube. Just to keep it simple and organized, have someone in chat type the order of left, middle, right statue, and then once you know which statue has what shape, remember to have the shape move over one space to the right and type it in the in-game chat, that way everybody can look at it whenever they need. And remember, the way you dissect the shapes and creating new one is by placing a shape in one statue and a shape in another, and that switches both shapes' locations. So for example, if you are trying to put a square inside the left statue and a circle inside the right statue, the circle will now be moving to the left statue and the square to the right, creating a brand new shape. And with that, you are basically creating the 3D shapes of a cube, a sphere, and a pyramid in the correct statue location that matches to the solo players inside. Now for phase number 3, you are basically repeating the exact same thing that you did in phase number 1. Because you always have to use an alternate pattern, meaning in the first phase you use pattern number 1, in the second phase you use pattern number 2, so in the third phase you can go back to pattern number 1. And because I don't want anyone to be confused, here's a quick rundown. First, when you get teleported in, you're going to look for your statue and see what shape it's holding. That is what you're going to collect and get rid of any other shapes in your room. Once everybody has their double matching shapes, you are then going to split it, send one to each of your teammates, and once everybody has done that, you are then able to pick up the two shapes that you now have and leave the room. And the people that are outside doing the dissecting, you have to pay attention on what shape each of the statues hold that got called out from the inside people, and if, for example, the middle statue is holding a circle, you want to make sure that the shape has nothing to do with a circle. You basically want to make sure it's holding the opposite shape, meaning a square and a triangle, and the same goes for all three of these statues. I know that this challenge may sound a bit confusing, or honestly the entire encounter, but I really hope that this explanation has helped out a lot, and if you're still very confused or you have any questions, feel free to ask down below. Please leave a like if it helped out, and if you enjoyed the video, I appreciate you coming in and watching. I will either see you in a future livestream on Twitch or in another video. Bye!